Welcome to Martha Runs the World, a podcast with a new take on running, fitness, and all things health-oriented. I'm Martha Hughes, your host, and each week I present a new topic that is of interest to all runners. Hi, and welcome to episode 303 of Martha Runs the World. Thank you so much for joining me. I truly appreciate it each and every week. Boy, it's getting chilly. It is. I make it a rule not to turn the heat on until November. The very least. October, I don't care. I will freeze. I wait till November 1st. So this weekend was the first time I turned the heat on in my little apartment. It doesn't take much to get it warm. The insulation isn't great, so it gets cold really fast. I turned it off for a little while, turned it off, and was warm, a little toasty warm. I don't like turning the heat on in October, so I wait till November. And then I'm very miserly about the heat that I do use. I try not to use much of it because heating costs are expensive. So I don't like spending a lot on heat if I can help it. Now, this week's episode, I've done past episodes on food before. It's a work in progress, as they say. If you're like me, trying to decide what food is going to work best during my runs and races is an ongoing project. I hope to narrow it down over the next few weeks, starting with this episode. And I've done many episodes on food before, but it just is ongoing. I don't think it's going to stop until I find something that works perfectly, and then my body will change, and I'll have to change it all again. It's just how life is, isn't it? Nothing really stays the same. Everything will stay the same when we're dead. If you listened to my Ruth Anderson 50K race report episode a few weeks ago, you'll remember that I had some GI problems during the race. Even with those problems, I had a great time, but I've been doing some big thinking about food issues and how to improve that since then. And that's what my focus is this week. I can be a little slow, maybe stubborn is more accurate as far as change goes in my diet, but I am slowly making healthier changes, and I'm going to discuss that. Change is difficult, and really important. Big changes are the most difficult. Readjusting my whole way of eating was definitely something I needed to do. Now, I'm not a big believer in trendy diets or cutting out entire food groups, so I'm not doing that. I have a big race coming up in 2025, maybe a few big races, but my one that I scheduled already is coming up in the first part of February. I will be doing the Bootleg Boogie race. I'm not doing 50 miles. I don't think I'm ready for that, but I'm going to do the 33-mile distance, which is still the farthest I've ever gone. And I do plan to do a 50-mile race, hopefully the Cool Moon 50 in June. We'll see. And I want to be in the best shape that I can be in. And honing in my diet will help that. It will also help get rid of all my GI problems, I think. Alleviate it anyway. I'm thinking. I hope. I was going to title this episode Running Food Revisited, but then during my long run Saturday, I realized that it's not just running food. The way we eat has everything to do with how our runs and our races go. The way we eat in our entire life, even during days we don't run, how we're eating will affect how our runs are. It's what we put in our body every single day. Junk in and junk out, as the saying goes. I could probably just say that sentence and then just say, okay, that's the episode. Goodbye. See you later. But there's really more to it than that. And that's really the quick take of it, isn't it? This is where I reiterate that I'm a little stubborn and maybe a little slow, probably both. I realized that eating healthy or healthier all the time, or most of the time, would have helped me during my last race. I know that I wasn't eating the best in the couple weeks before my race, and that really, really would have helped my GI issues. I understand that. Like I said, I'm a little slow. I was very nervous about that race, and when I'm nervous, I tend to not eat the healthiest that I can or that I should. When I'm nervous, things kind of go out the window. Leading up to that race, I didn't do things the way I should have or planned to, and I'm changing that. This last week, and it's only been a week, but I'm working on it. I've cut out most processed sugar. I say most because I'm not going to be super strict about it. I've done the Whole30 program a few years ago, and I did an entire episode about my 1 month on the Whole30 program. It was not pleasurable. I felt great, but it was not pleasurable for me. It was so strict and so difficult. It took a long time for me to prepare my foods, and a lot of it I just didn't enjoy. I didn't enjoy putting almond milk in my coffee, for example. I use half and half, and I don't mind cutting out a lot of my dairy, but I will not cut that out of my diet because I like half and half in my coffee, and that's not going to stop. But it just wasn't for me. So I just, no, not going to happen. I like to have whole wheat toast in the morning. I have it with organic peanut butter and low sugar jam. So I have lowered my sugars. I'm not eating candy or junk. I'm not eating high processed protein bars, for example. I do have a protein bar once in a while, but they have to be organic and they have to be very few ingredients in it. But I'm not having like chips or any of that garbage. That's all gone. And I am feeling better because I'm not having that stuff in my diet. So yes, my diet is improved vastly, but it's not 100% clean, I would say. But it's much, much better than it was. I survived Halloween without eating any candy, which is huge for me. And let me tell you, it's hard to do that where I work. It's really hard. Now, I work at a health clinic, so you would think at a health clinic we would have healthy snacks. We do not. We have really junky stuff. We have chips, we have candy, we have cookies, at my insistence, we have LaCroix water, or LaCroix, as it should be pronounced. We have that, but we also have sugary sodas, which I don't drink, but we have a lot of other stuff that I refuse to eat. I bring all my own food. 2 days a week, I work 12 hours, so I bring breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For breakfast, I have oatmeal that I make for myself. I make it at home and I bring it in and I have it. And I have it with dried fruit and nuts in it. And then for lunch, I have whatever I have. A lot of times I will make something on Monday or Tuesday, and then I will make that. I'll have like 3 or 4 servings and I'll have that through the week. And then for dinner, I have something smaller. Lunch is my big meal. And then for dinner, I'll have something smaller, maybe a half sandwich, turkey sandwich, and a piece of fruit or something like that. So I really try to limit my calories, limit what I eat to do something very healthy. I'm also in my 60s, and that means it's really difficult to lose weight. Not impossible because I'm doing it, but it's definitely not easy. It takes a lot of planning. Plan, plan, plan. People don't like to plan their meals. People just want to reach for something. People want someone to do it for them. Well, the best way to take care of yourself and to understand what you need is to plan it yourself. Don't let other people take over your way of eating for you. That's the problem, because once you decide, oh, I've gotten this weight, I don't need this anymore, and you go back to your old way of eating, you're going to gain it back. Plan it yourself. If you plan your meals, all your way of eating yourself, you will know what you need. You will be knowledgeable. Don't pay a lot of money for these planned meals because you won't have any idea how to do it without them. once you get through with that and you do it yourself, you're lost. It's much better to do it yourself. And I am unwilling to cut out whole food groups. I'm unwilling to cut out dairy and grains and carbs and all that stuff. I'm unwilling to eat nothing but meat. I don't think it's healthy. Now, I am cutting out a lot of red meat. I am cutting out a lot of cheese. I am cutting out a lot of things like that because I don't think it's healthy to eat a lot of that as you get older. I am replacing it with a lot more fiber, a lot more whole foods like vegetables and fruit and that kind of thing. If I need something sweet, I reach for a handful of grapes. This time of year grapes are really sweet, so they're very nice and they tide me over. Last night I had a salad for dinner. It was with frise lettuce, which I love, frise lettuce and diced. Actually, it was diced raw Brussels sprouts and all kinds of other things, and it was really, really good. I'm not into low carbs or any of that stuff. I love my carbs. Carbs keep me running. I think those cutting out entire food groups, trendy diets are falling by the wayside. I don't know what they will be replaced with. It's always something wacko. You lose weight right away. It's very fast, but then maintaining that kind of diet is really difficult and really, really complicated, and it's almost impossible. And it won't help your body or your heart to go up and down, up and down, up and down on the scale. It's not good for you. I think just maintaining a healthy way of eating is the best way. And it's not trendy. It's not hip. It's not sexy, but it is effective. It's hard too. It's really, really hard. Sometimes at night, I am so hungry and I know I'm getting enough calories. It's just that I am looking for the old way that I used to eat. I got really hungry last night, so I measured out a quarter cup of unsalted cashews, and I had a quarter cup of unsalted cashews. I went a little over my calorie count, but I don't care. I was hungry, and it helped. It really helped. But I have to measure it. If I just reach in and get a handful, it's going to be over a quarter cup, and I'm going to go way over my calorie count. I'm going to gain weight, so I can't do that. Sometimes training myself to not eat emotionally is the hardest part. I've had addiction problems before. With alcohol, I've had those kind of problems before. So I know what my personality is like. So I have to avoid falling into the pitfalls with food. And I think food is harder than overcoming alcohol. For me, personally, it is. Personally, it is. I'm not talking about anyone else on the planet, so don't think, oh, she's saying it's harder for food than it is for booze. Well, no, for me only. Like I said, I only speak for myself. Sleep is another thing that's very difficult for me, and I'll probably talk about sleep in another episode. This weekend, I did go out for a long run. I got a little bit more than 9 miles. I said, okay, I'll go out for 9 or 10 miles. So I did that, and it worked really, really well. My food, I kept it simple. I only took a couple things out with me for food, and it worked well, and I felt really good the whole time. I also, one thing I also do not do in my diet, I don't starve myself or quote unquote fast, which is starvation. I don't do that. It doesn't work for me. I went through my phase of not eating in the 80s, and I'm not doing that again. I already did that when I was in college. Been there, done that, not doing it again. And the t-shirt sucked. And usually when people do fast, they go through this fasting, the starvation and gorge modes. I remember seeing this very famous ultra runner who he would starve himself for 12 hours and then he'd gorge for 2 hours. Starve 12 hours, gorge 2 hours. Starve 12 hours, gorge 2 hours. That's not healthy. That is really not healthy. And that's going to play on your heart. That's going to play on your GI issues. That's going to play on every part of your body is going to suffer because you're eating that way. That's a really, really unhealthy way, and it's not sustainable. You stop doing that, fortunately. As you get older, that kind of stuff you keep eating that way, that kind of stuff is going to really, really hurt you as you get older. You can get away with doing a lot of bad stuff when you're young, but you keep hurting your body as you get older, it's going to be painful and it's not going to help you at all. Like I said before, when I am nervous, I eat, and I eat the wrong foods. I never say to myself, I feel nervous about blank, work, running, a race, whatever, fill in the blank. I feel nervous, so I'm going to eat a bowl of broccoli. Nah, that doesn't happen. What happens is that I will go into Trader Joe's. It inevitably is Trader Joe's, and I will buy a box of my favorite cookies. And because they don't put a huge amount of cookies in that box, I can polish that box off in one evening. Not a problem. Gone. And then, of course, I feel guilty and horrible the next day, and I've gained a couple pounds, and it's just a vicious, vicious circle. And I'm sure I'm not alone here. I'm sure that many of you have felt that. I believe if my body gets used to getting away from that and gets used to having plenty of very healthy fruits and vegetables and whole grains and beans and fish and chicken, poultry, which is meat, and very little red meat, I will do better at my runs and my races. I'll lose weight. It will feel better. Everything will come together nicely, I think. What I've discovered as I've gotten older is that my body is very unforgiving when it comes to foods. And especially if I eat too much food or eat too much of the wrong food, portion control is super important. When you get into your 60s, you have to decrease the size of your portions. If you're still eating the same portions you were when you were in your 30s or even your 40s, you're going to have GI problems, you're going to feel bad, and you're going to gain a whole lot of weight. And I don't think people understand this. I know guys really don't understand this. They don't understand why they have GI issues, why they have heartburn all the time in their 60s. Well, you're still eating the way you did in your 40s. You can't. You have to cut down that size. You have to cut down your portions. You don't need that much. Even if you're racing, even if you're running a lot, and say, oh, well, you ran a ton. You can eat a lot. I can't eat a ton. Even if I ran 20 miles, I still cannot eat a ton of food. I really, really can't, because it doesn't matter how many miles I ran. Afterwards, I still have to watch what I eat because I will gain weight. It doesn't matter. I know it's horrible. It's a horrible reality as you get older. It really is. And I will feel bad too because I ate a lot. It just is. It is how it is. And that, I can't help that. I also thought of this. You know, when you're running, you think of all kinds of things. You think of everything in the world, and nothing gets solved, but you're thinking about it. And as I was in my long run Saturday, I thought a race is a little microcosm of life. And the food we eat during a race should be close to the food we eat the rest of the time. If you eat healthy in real life, you should try to eat as healthy as you can in a race, I believe. And that's also one of the problems that I've been having is that, yeah, okay, I eat healthy most of the time, but then I eat junk in a race. My body's going, what is this? Why are you putting this into my body now when you never eat this regularly? How am I supposed to respond? That could also make GI problems. I can understand that. I can see where my body wouldn't know what to do with that. So I'm going to stick to as healthy foods as much as possible in my runs and my races. Now I'm going to be practicing up until February in my next big race. And I'll tell you as I go along how it works. Not everything is going to be perfectly quote unquote healthy. I'm going to stick to as much as I can. There are a couple things I'm going to keep eating because they have never given me issues. And I'm going to make my list of foods and just add to it, subtract to it, work with it, and see how it goes. Now, so far, and it's a small list, so like I said, I will add to it and subtract to it. So far, Dried fruits. Now, I only want the dried fruits that don't stick to my teeth. This will probably mean that I will only eat the ones that have added sugar because that makes it less sticky as far as sticking to your teeth. Trader Joe's has these orange slices, and they are sweetened, and they're really good, and they're not quite as they're clingy to your teeth. They're delicious too. Of course they are. They have added sugar, obviously. Goo salted caramel. Now, this is one of the few processed foods that I will continue to eat. They always feel good. They've never given me GI problems, at least not yet. Also, goo salted watermelon. Those are the two flavors that I love and have never given me problems. The thing with goos is that the gels, as long as they don't have caffeine, I'm good with it. Once they have caffeine in it, I cannot do those. Those high octane ones, no. I can't do those. Leave the caffeine out of it. I can do the ones without the caffeine. Nuts, I like cashews best. Almonds are okay, but I really like the cashews best because they're easier to chew, not quite as hard as the almond ones. Pretzels, okay, they're processed, but they're not as processed as chips and that kind of thing. And they're mild with only added salt, and they work great in warm weather. Olives, the Trader Joe's makes these little packets of green olives, and they're perfect. They're like $1 each. You stick them in your hydration pack, and they're just great. You just zip them open. There's no juice or anything like that. You just eat them really fast. They're terrific. Now, peanut butter and jelly wraps or sandwiches, they're so simple and easy to make and don't cost a fortune. They're cheap. So they're really, really good. Sometimes the simplest things are the best. So they're very, very nice. I have tried to make my own running food over time, and I think I have 2 episodes on making your own running food. A few of the recipes have worked, most have not. To be honest, I wish more of them had worked great for me. I really, really wanted to be one of those people who said, hey, try this recipe. This works really great. But it really didn't. Some fail really badly because they cannot withstand the rigors of my running. Maybe I'm harder than most runners on food. I don't know. They get squished, they get bounced around, or it's hot out, they melted, whatever. They just wouldn't make it. Like energy balls, those little balls, they just did not make it. They would get squished so bad, and I just couldn't take them with me. I really wanted to like the rice squares that I found in the Feed Zone portables, but they don't stay together like they do in the book. And I use the sweet rice, and I didn't stir it, and all the glutinous stuff was in there, so they should have stayed together. I really want to work on them some more because I really like that the recipe with the bacon in it and stuff. That was really good. So I'm still going to work on it and see how it goes. I don't want to use the recipe from Jason Koop's book where you just have the loose bag of rice and reach in with my hand. I think that's kind of gross. Personally, I just don't want to do that. So, yeah, you're going to eat running food with your hand, but with your hand in a bag of rice, oh, I don't know. It just seems unappealing to me. And there are other fails, and I know part of it is probably me. I don't know. I want things that are going to be simpler, going to be easy to do, easy to put together, that you don't have to spend a whole day making or creating. That kind of takes the fun out of it and takes the appeal out of it. I have yet to find a homemade protein bar that I like more than the Go Macro bars that I take with me. I like the way Go Macro tastes, and they're not full of sugar. Now, I love the Go Pro bars, but all that sugar, I might as well take a couple candy bars. I mean, they're so good tasting. Of course they are. They have a ton of sugar. A Go Pro bar has 400 calories. Well, they're all right if you cut them into 4 squares and have one, but they're way too processed and way too much sugar for me at this moment in time. So going simple for me is the answer. I'm not going to overthink things. I'm going to try to keep food as simple as it is. I'm going to cook with more types of fruits and vegetables. to make them more appealing. I'm not interested in giving up meat entirely, but I have cut back. And that is really the answer for me. You have to find your right way of eating. You have to find what works for you. If you've never had GI problems, wonderful. I wish I didn't. Sadly, that's not my fate. Lastly, I didn't do a song of the week last week because it was my special Haunted Running Trails episode. If you didn't hear it, go back and listen to it after this one. It's all about San Francisco and the haunted stuff you can see or experience when you run in the city. This week's song I first heard on the show The Doom Patrol. I'm not a big superheroes fan. I don't really watch superhero stuff. I kind of like the anti-superhero. So I like The Boys and I like The Doom Patrol. I like The Doom Patrol more than The Boys because it's just funny. It's cool. It's not as gross either. It's funny. It's just irreverent. And there's one episode that had this song on it, and it's just a great, great song. It's a new-ish song. It's about 5 years old. I first heard it on this episode of the show, and it's such a great song. It's called People Like Us, and it's done by Matt Bomer and Alan Mingo Jr. So there'll be a link on there. If you haven't heard it before, I suggest listening to it. It's really fun. It's danceable. It's just a lot of fun, and it's guaranteed to pick you up if you need a pick-me-up type song, if you're feeling down and you just want to be happy, basically. All right, so that is it. The website is martharunsaworld.com. My email is martharunsaworld@gmail.com. So let me know what's going on. Let me know what your favorite running song is. Email me at martharunsaworld@gmail.com. And until next week, let's tie up our shoelaces and go for a run.